Hello and welcome to day 4 of the Tennis Menus US Open show. Day 5 in total, but day 4 of the US Open. It's been another big day. Men's and women's seeds have fallen. Upsets galore at the Billie Jean King Tennis Centre. All for the tennismenu.com, where you can find absolutely everything you need to know about the world of tennis. Drills, articles, news, anything. It's all there. Tennismenu.com for all you need to know. I'm Febbo, and joining me, he still hasn't left the office because I pumped him up that much. Jeez, that head's just getting a little bit smaller, so I won't pump you up as much today. So I'll just call you the best high performance coach in the business. Marc Sophoulis joining me. How you going?
I'm very well, Val. I've been up all night. I was up at 2 a.m. when one of my daughters woke up and wanted to look around the house for some reason, and I've been watching tennis ever since. So it has been one of those mornings where my eyes are square, and I keep telling my girls, don't watch too much of your iPad because your eyes will be square. Hopefully my eyes aren't too square for this show, but it's been a good night of tennis and really good results, and obviously some shock results as well, especially the women's side.
Yeah, 100%. And don't ask me what kids do. I was a kid. I used to wander around the house at 2 o'clock in the morning for no reason as well. I think the sheer factor, I'm out of bed at this time. It's cool. That's probably all it was. But you're right. 100% big results in the women's side of the draw this morning. Svetlana Pironkova over Garbiñe Muguruza, one of my semi-finalists who I picked in the draw analysis show. 7-5, 6-3 for the Bulgarian. What a story that is coming back. She's a mum, so she's doing really well to get herself into such a strong position. She can play some wonderful tennis. And Sorana Cirstea over Jo Konta, 2-6, 7-6, 6-4. Marc, I picked those two for the bottom half of the draw semi-finalists, and they've lost second round.
It just really signifies that we have no idea what we're talking about. So all of our tips have gone out the window. We've still got a couple left, but maybe don't put your money where we're giving you the tips on, and literally just make your own mind up. We'll give you all the news, and you guys make the decisions.
The WTA, you can't put money on it. I would highly advise betting against the WTA. Just steer clear of it. Men's side is a little bit more easy to predict. Has been for a long time with the big 3 and big 4, even big 5 if you include Stan in that. But the other results, Sofia Kenin breezing through Leylah Fernandez, 6-4, 6-3. Serena Williams over Margarita Gasparyan, 6-2, 6-4. Amanda Anisimova through over compatriot Scott, 4-6, 6-4, 6-1. She screamed out during the match a couple of expletives, which was quite funny. Sloane Stephens through as well as Madison Keys. So a big morning for the Americans. They've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 through just there alone. Cirstea through, as I mentioned. Karolina Muchova also through. Donna Vekic getting through as well. Elisa Cornet. Maria Sakkari over Bernarda Pera. Ons Jabeur as well. So big morning for the seeds, but also a big morning for some of the dangerous floaters in the draw. But Serena, she's just chugging along very nicely, Marc, and this morning was very good. She was annihilating her opponent's second serve.
Yeah, she's starting to get a little bit of court feel now and a little bit of match time, which is good for her. And when you mentioned the Americans, there's 54 Americans in the main draw singles, male and female. That is an insane amount of players to be in a draw from one country. It's some sort of record for sure. I think they're doing something, must be something in the water over there. I'm not too sure, Val, but we might have to get a little bit of that
purified
over. Bring that over to Australia, and we can hopefully create some players as well like that, because it's incredible the amount of players that are coming through from the American system. But Serena Williams is going amazingly well. She's just cruising through, starting to find her range now, which is great. Sophia Kenin's the other one, though. She's one of my favourite players in the tour at the moment. Feisty little competitor, won the Australian Open this year. Can she bring that form to the US and do this consistently throughout the course of this tournament? I think she's going to be pretty close. She's one of my bets. So again, don't put money on her, just in case, because it is one of mine. But fantastic to see players like that getting through, and really surprising with Jo Konta and Azarenka going down, because they're two players that are in form out of the draw.
Another one that just finished, Marc. This is as Robert Walls would say, a destroyation. Victoria Azarenka destroyed Aryna Sabalenka, the compatriot, and the number 5 seed, 6-1, 6-3. Is Vika back?
Yeah, great win. Obviously, the two Belarusians playing against each other. So Sabalenka, obviously the younger of the two, probably finds it a little bit challenging. I would say she's grown up watching Azarenka play. and probably idolized her. And once you put someone on a pedestal, it is very hard to compete against them. You look at them in a different light, you play them with a different mindset. And I reckon that was a little bit of an interesting match. Obviously, Azarenka getting through that match quite comfortably, but, Sabalenka is no slouch. So I don't know how, that has been the result, but it definitely wasn't a physical battle. It was more the mindset.
Yeah, well, when Azarenka won the 2012 Australian Open, her first slam, Sabalenka was only 14 years old.
There you go.
Or 13, actually. So, so there you go. She definitely would have grown up watching Azarenka as a hero and an idol of hers. And how now, I don't know if you've coached in this situation, but if your pupil is going up against someone that's playing against their idol and someone that they have absolutely adored growing up and watching years and their inspiration for becoming a tennis player, how do you coach that?
Yeah, that's a real tough one because it's actually a mindset more than anything. So the physical capabilities, most of the players on the tour can handle playing anyone, and anyone from 200-300 in the world can compete. And we saw Chris O'Connell this morning playing against Medvedev. He belongs on that stage, but it is obviously a challenge when you play someone you've been watching on TV, you've seen dominate the sport. It can be quite a challenge to get over the line. And as I said before, you put them on a pedestal, and once they're on that pedestal, it's like, I'm playing someone that is such and such. I'm playing Nadal, but you're not playing Nadal. You're playing their career. You're playing their history. You're playing their trophies. You're playing their success. You're not actually playing the individual themselves. And it's that mindset that you've got to get over of, I am at this level. I do belong here, and I'm going to have a decent crack at this.
Yeah.
If you go into that match believing that you can't win because of who they are, there's no chance of you winning. Whatever you believe, you can achieve. And if you don't believe, that you're good enough, then you won't achieve what you can, what you physically or mentally can. So it is a real battle. And Sabalenka probably went through that today, where she's got Azarenka up here, and it's a real challenge to get over that.
Yeah, and you're right. And look, I think once you realize that you do belong there, you do start playing the individual, not the trophies. And that's when you put yourself in a really good position to win matches. And when I think you see a lot of players, they sometimes come out of big upset wins and they go, look, I'm a little bit shocked. It's like, don't be shocked. You should know that you've got the capabilities to actually win these matches.
Yeah, absolutely. 100% correct. And that's the challenge as a coach is a lot of the time, one of the hardest things coaching is you don't know what your player is thinking. You really do not know what your player is thinking. So you can assume that they're confident. You can assume that they're feeling good about themselves. They may really think deep down inside, I can't win this. I don't know why I'm even going out there. And a lot of the time, players will keep that to themselves. I mean, the relationship is really important to create as a coach, to be able to have the player say to you, hey, this is what I'm feeling. But sometimes it isn't. Sometimes I'll just go, I'll tell the coach what he wants to hear so that I feel, he feels okay about it and he doesn't worry and stress about it as well. So, yeah, it is a real challenge to understand the thoughts behind it. But at the end of the day, you've got to have the belief. And if you don't have the belief, you can train as hard as you want physically. The belief is what counts at the end of the day when you're on the court.
Yeah, well, mental counts for more than 50% of how you actually play. You could be the most universally skilled person at anything, but if you don't believe you can do it, then it's not going to happen because the motivation's not there. But moving on to the men's side of things, and Dominic Thiem threw over Sumit Nagal, Rafa with a G, 3-3-2. Vasek Pospisil over Milos Raonic. That I wasn't expecting after what Raonic dished up in Cincinnati last week. That was a really comprehensive performance from Vasek. And, he's one that you look at and you go, you can play at this level, but you are nowhere near consistent enough. And I think that's the frustrating thing about him, because he's got the game. He's for a big guy, he can move and he can hit the ball, and he doesn't have a bad serve, and his doubles game is good. So he's good at the net. But, why do you think he's just not really translated that into some quality singles action?
I'll give you a little quote. You're only as good as your worst tennis. Now, it rings true for the best players in the world because their worst tennis is very close to their best. The other players that are sitting around the 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 mark, they're good and bad, are few and far between. So you look at Nick Kyrgios, he's good, he's the best in the world. Absolutely, hands down. His best tennis, no one takes him. Nadal is a similar comparison because you go, his best tennis is here, but his worst tennis is there. Kyrgios' best tennis is here, but his worst tennis is here.
Mm.
Now, it's the ability to bridge that gap. Vasek Pospisil is one of those players that his best tennis is good enough to beat anyone. His worst tennis is probably good enough to lose to anyone. And that's where you've got to look at these sort of players and how, amazing the situation is with Nadal, Djokovic, Federer winning 70-odd%, 78% of the last 72 Grand Slams. Now, to be consistent at that level and play that level of tennis is incredibly hard to do for such a period of time. And that is what the best players do. They play their good and bad, or best and worst tennis is very close in proximity with each other. So, and that's what I feel like the Vasek Pospisils of the world probably don't have that ability.
Yeah, no, you're right. And Vasek can play some absolutely abhorrent matches. Lost to Ivo Karlovic in straight sets at the Australian Open this year and didn't even look remotely competitive in that match, even though there were a few tie breaks, as are all of Ivo Karlovic's matches. But just quickly, you mentioned 78% of the last 72 Grand Slams or whatever it was. Since 2003 Wimbledon, can you name me the men outside the big five? So outside Roger, Rafa, Novak, Murray, and Stan that have won Grand Slams.
Cilic.
Yep, 2014 US. You're looking at 09 US Open.
Jeez.
Argentine.
Give it to me.
Del Potro.
Del Potro.
Yep. 04 French Open. Gaston Gaudio.
That's right. Wow.
03 US was Roddick.
Huh.
And then I think 05 Oz Open was Marat Safin.
That's incredible.
That there's just been that few players that have been able to break through. Well, even the world number 2 stat, that since July 2005, since Leighton Hewitt, only 4 men have been at world number 2 and world number 1. That's Murray, Novak, Roger, and Rafa. It's just how good they've been over such a long period of time. And you bring up that you're only as good as your worst tennis. They haven't played much bad tennis over those last 15 years. So it's just an unbelievable stat for how good they've been. But got a little bit sidetracked. We'll get back into the results this morning. Daniil Medvedev over O'Connell, as you mentioned. We'll get back to that match. Andrei Rublev over Gregor Barres in straight sets. The 10th seed, Matteo Berrettini, also through in straight. Karen Khachanov also through in straight. Alex de Minaur with a big win over Richard Gasquet in 4 sets, 7-5 in the 4th. Second time in a row he's been up a break in the 3rd set. And being up 2 sets to love and failing to close it out. So will that give him any mental scars heading into the next match, or is he good enough to get over it?
No, I think once you've gotten over it, if he hadn't lost that match, the mental scars are there for sure.
Yeah.
But I think it's more of a fact of, there's not a lot of matches being played over the last, couple of months, and it's really challenging to, especially at a Grand Slam level. You're going from the last time you played a Grand Slam. Well, he didn't even play the Australian Open. Alex de Minaur. So he hasn't played a Grand Slam since US Open last year, which he made, I think, 3rd or 4th round in that. Yeah, so, at the end of the day, it's been 12 months between Grand Slams, between a 5-set match. It is challenging to play 3 sets and close it out and win those 3, and it is not easy. So, I'll forgive him for that. I think he's playing some good tennis, and against someone like Richard Gasquet, who's a seasoned campaigner, and showed he could be a quality opponent to play against at this level for a long period of time. He's done a really good job to close that one out, even in the way he did.
Yeah, and the lead up for Gasquet was so good at the Ultimate Tennis Showdown. He looked like he was striking the ball really well. Francis Tiafoe broke Australian hearts, defeating John Millman after being down 2 sets to 1. Looked down and out after losing the 3rd 6-1. Came back and won the next 2 6-3, 6-3. JJ Wolf goes through to his first Grand Slam 3rd round. Salvatore Caruso, one of the best Italian names on tour, gets through over Ernesto Escobedo, who's also got a
good name.
Pretty good match. Cilic goes through, as well as Casper Ruud, Roberto Bautista Agut as well. And lightning strikes twice for Martin Fucsovics, who beat Grigor Dimitrov at the Western and Southern Open at the Billie Jean King Tennis Centre in a deciding 3rd set last week. Well, he's done it again. He's beaten him in 5, 6-1 in the 5th after trailing 2 sets to 1. So big win for the Hungarian, and he owns Grigor Dimitrov in New York. But going back now to Daniil Medvedev and Chris O'Connell. Now, you brought this up to me off air before we started the show. How do you break down someone that is so sound and how do you break a brick wall, really?
Yeah.
And he's so technically sound, hits the ball well, gets balls back, good defense, good serve. What do you do in those situations? And take the listeners through his game and how you as a coach would try and break that down for your pupil.
First, I probably wouldn't even bother turning up if it was me because I wouldn't have a chance. But, when you're coaching someone that plays against that, and watching Chris O'Connell walk onto that court, obviously the nerves would have been there. First time in a Grand Slam, first time on a stadium court, playing against one of the best players in the world, the finalist of last year. That in itself is the hardest challenge. For me as a coach, letting him go out there and doing that would have been, dude, go and have some fun. Go and have a good time, have a crack, leave everything out there, throw the kitchen sink at him and see how you go. Literally. But if you're really trying to break down a player that has a counter-puncher game, which Medvedev plays an amazing counter-punching game, Chris O'Connell had the exact right plan. He went on the court, first few games, he varied up the serve, he varied up the speed, the height, the spin. He took some speed off the ball. He was slicing and then taking a ball on the rise and going harder. So he was mixing the ball speed. The counter-puncher player like a Medvedev wants ball speed to be on the whole time. With the fast courts of US Open, you hit the ball hard to Medvedev, he'll utilize that ball speed. So what O'Connell did, he mixed the speeds up with slice. He went through with a big forehand. He mixed up the width of the ball, the shape of the ball, the depth of the ball, and didn't allow him to get rhythm. Now, everyone's going to say, well, Medvedev absolutely spanked him and we went pants down on him, really. And he did, absolutely. Now, O'Connell is going to be a great player. There's no doubt about it. He can hit a ball. He hasn't played that level long enough to be able to understand the intricacies of that kind of level for a 5-set match. But what he did was exactly the plan. Now, whoever plays Medvedev next, it has to understand you cannot give him the same ball over and over again. He will not miss. He will stay in that rally all day long. He will not miss a ball. And I think it's important to understand you have to vary your game. You cannot give him the same look. You cannot keep the same speed and tempo of the ball or the speed and tempo of the match. You've got to keep mixing it up and changing it up. And it's no different to Novak Djokovic. You cannot play against him because he's a wall. So you have to think about how to construct your point to get him out of range, out of rhythm, and not allow him to get into that real good feel and real good zone. Yep. And that's how Chris O'Connell played him this morning, was doing that exact plan. He didn't execute it perfectly, but did a great job and a really good start to his Grand Slam career.
Yeah, and one thing that I noticed with O'Connell, Medvedev was standing so far back when O'Connell was serving. So O'Connell just slowed the serve up and made Medvedev come in. And then it gave O'Connell sort of control of the point until Medvedev was able to get himself back into the rally. And that's where he's so good. He can turn it sort of like Novak Djokovic. He can turn defense into attack so easily.
Absolutely, 100%.
And his serve is something, and his serve is very underrated, but also the way he gets angle on his forehand, because he looks like he sort of comes over the ball and hits down on it, but it goes over the net. And the angle that he produces, is it because he hits the ball so flat?
Yeah, well, it's hard to hit flat and hit angle, but at the same time, he has an amazing ball feel. What he can do with a ball is just incredible. He was changing some direction of the ball today, and you wouldn't teach anybody to change direction of the balls he was doing, but he's able to just feel the ball, feel the court. And the only other player there's two other players that can do that kind of stuff, which is Federer and Djokovic. Nadal hits it very differently to all those three players. And the other player that plays very similar to that is Alex de Minaur. Very flat across the ball, can counter punch really well, really good feet, really good wheels, gets to a lot of balls. And even de Minaur today, for an entire 4-set match, he made only 8 unforced errors for the entire match. Gasquet made only 3 for one whole match. Now, you're talking 11 unforced errors in a 3-hour match. And this is the kind of level that Chris O'Connell is going to have to come up to that level. Absolutely no doubt. And I think he can. But to be able to beat the best, you just have to be solid as a rock, have very minimal weaknesses in your game, and your best and worst tennis needs to be very, very close together. So that's the kind of way to beat those players. And, there's no doubt, I think Medvedev is one of the favourites to win this. If Djokovic doesn't play at his best tennis and Medvedev plays at his best, I think we could see a really good matchup between those two.
Wow, this is why this show is successful, mate. It's because of an analysis like that. That is absolutely brilliant. I love going into the minds of players and coaches and what you would try and teach and how you would try and break down someone's game like that. And the beauty of tennis, I think, is everybody's different in the way they play. Even big servers, the serve is what they base their game around. But some of them have good backhands, some of them don't. Some of them are good at the net and some of them aren't. and some of them are really good at their feet. Some of them aren't. So you've got to develop a different game style for each player, and you've really got your work cut out for you. You've chosen a very tough field, Mark.
Yeah, it's a challenging game, you know, and there's so many different ways to play it, and you're working with an individual all the time who has different strengths, different weaknesses of their game, different backgrounds, different upbringing, different personal characteristics, you know, and you've got to actually work within their flavor. You cannot just clone a player. If you coach someone and you coach someone next, it's not the same thing that you do. It's okay, I'm coaching the same game, but I'm coaching an individual that I have to bring their strengths to the table, and they have to bring it to the table as well. And I can't give them what I've given this person because they may interpret that totally differently from the way that they understand it. So you've got to really deal with personalities, learning styles. You've got to deal with game styles. You've got to deal with, you know, culture is another one. And I feel like, you know, as a coach, I have to be able to buy into the way that they are as a person before I can buy into the way they are as an athlete.
Yep, I love that. And look, the individual has to be at the forefront, and they've got to be willing to do the work, and they've got to be humble. They can't be too arrogant because, you know, arrogance can only get you so far. You've got to be willing to do the work at the same time. And look, Mark, there's some massive matches tomorrow, and I feel like we've spoken about her on every day of the show this week, but Marta Kostyuk against Naomi Osaka. This one promises to be an absolute belter. First up on Arthur Ashe Stadium, Denis Shapovalov against Taylor Fritz, the two young guns from the neighbouring countries, USA and Canada. Novak Djokovic against Jan-Lennard Struff. Petra Kvitova going up on the night session on Ashe tomorrow. Barbara Gracheva, if I can get that out, I can speak. There we go. That's good. Against Petra Martic. Angie Kerber also in action. Alexander Zverev against Adrian Manarino. This one promises to be a cracking match. Stefanos Tsitsipas against Borna Coric. So that one's exciting. Coric is such a great young talent, as is Tsitsipas. And if Stefanos is to go deep in this tournament, this is a match that he's got to make a statement in.
It's a huge match. I mean, Borna Coric is a great player. I think he's a slight level below, you know, the Tsitsipas level, but you know, he's really going to challenge him in this match. And as you said, if Stefanos can make a statement here, it's game on, because I think he's priming himself for a Grand Slam in the next 12 months, and it couldn't be too far away.
Let's hope not, because I love the way that he thinks. He's a deep thinker, and he's a really humble guy. So I do love watching Stefanos Tsitsipas play. But you mentioned the difference between best and worst tennis. Coric, his best is up here, and his worst is probably down there. So mentally, he just needs to improve that a little bit more. And Caroline Garcia against Jennifer Brady also tomorrow. Pablo Carreño Busta against the heart monitor Ricardus Berankis. Cam Norrie against Alejandro Davidovich Fokina. There's some great names at this US Open. Corentin Moutet against Dan Evans as well. Magdalene against Annette Kontaveit. Filip Krajinovic against David Goffin. Jordan Thompson, the Aussie, one of only two Aussies left in the singles draw, against Mikhail Kukushkin of Kazakhstan. Christina McNally against Ekaterina Alexandrova. Sasha Vickery against Swiatek of Poland, and Elise Mertens also in action. So some big matches tomorrow. It's going to be a very, very big day 5 of the US Open. Fourth round spots are up for grabs, and this is when the big guns of the tournament can really start making their mark, and it's really exciting. That I didn't mean that, by the way, but
yeah, you did.
No, I actually didn't. I thought of it after I said it, and I'm like, oh, I actually didn't stumble. That's good. But yeah, no, this is what's the most important for a big play. Just before we do wrap up, what's the most important round of a Grand Slam where they've got to make their statement? Is it the quarters? Is it the fourth round? Or is it the third round where they come up against a seeded player for the first time and they can go, you know what, I'm going to put my foot on the accelerator and I'm going to send a message to everyone?
Yeah, look, I think personally it's the first round. And the reason I say that is because it's about getting yourself into this tournament. Now, the good players can really find their form coming through that first round, and then really build on that. And once momentum's going for a good player, they're fine. And for a player who's well below, they want to get that first round win for confidence. They need the money. They need the confidence. They need okay, I've got money in my belt now. I'm okay for a little while. Okay, I can last my year. I can pay for the rest of my year. That first round is actually a really important round for a lot of people. So now that we're into the draw. And I heard that Jordan Thompson has got a great draw for a third-round US Open to play Kukushkin. And don't get me wrong, Kukushkin's a good player. But you know what? To get him as opposed to a top seed is a really good opportunity for Jordan to get through to the fourth round for the first time at the US Open.
Yeah, well, you'd rather Kukushkin over Christian Garin for sure. And Kukushkin knocked him off in a big 5-set match, and Jordan Thompson would absolutely love that because he's a fitness machine, and he'll probably try and run Kukushkin into the ground. We saw him do it against Fabio Fognini at the Australian Open this year, lost it in 5, but was thereabouts for the entirety of the match. But Marc, it has been an absolute pleasure again talking tennis with you and delving into the minds of players and coaches at the US Open. I'll speak to you again tomorrow for the first day of round 3 action.
Always a pleasure, Val. It's a great day for the US Open again, and it just keeps getting better and better. There is rain forecast. Hopefully it doesn't ruin the play, but looking forward to watching Aussie Jordan Thompson hopefully get through to a fourth round.
Well, 2 covered courts now, so that does help the rain. So, Marc, thank you very much, mate, and we'll speak tomorrow. Val Febbo, I've been here with you as well, and remember, you can follow The Tennis Menu on Twitter and Instagram, at The Tennis Menu Facebook. We are there as well on thetennismenu.com for all you need to know about the world of tennis. There's plenty on there, blogs and videos, articles, news, podcasts. Anything that's got to do with tennis, it is on there. And Marc and Nick do such an amazing job, and George as well. So plenty to get through over the next few days. We'll chat again tomorrow, tennis fans.